Lesson 6.8, Systems of Inequalities. We're going to start off by first graphing systems of inequalities. With the first example, we have y is less than or equal to 3. Now, if you only have an x or a y, it can only be one of two things, a horizontal or a vertical line. In this case, you only have y. So go to the y-axis and put a dot at 3. Now, we wouldn't go up and down, so we'd have to go with a horizontal line. So y in a number is horizontal, while x in a number is vertical. Now, we're not done because you notice it's a less than, so that means I have to shade. Now, which way is less? That's right, down. So with your pencil, shade very lightly below the line, because we're about to graph a second inequality on the same coordinate plane. X plus y is greater than or equal to 1. Now, to review how to graph in standard form. When you have standard, cross out one of the variables. This will tell you what the x-intercept is when you cross out y. Since the x-intercept is 1, put a dot on the x-axis at 1. Now, cover up the x. And this will tell you what the y-intercept is. In this case, it's also 1. So go to the y-axis and put a dot at 1. You can now connect these 2 points. And that's going to be our second line. Now, it's not as easy as up and down or left and right when shading here. Instead, we're going to need to plug in a point. So the easiest point we have is 0, 0. So I put a star there. So I'm going to take 0 for x, 0 for y, and plug it in. Is 0 plus 0 greater than 1? No, it's not. So don't shade over top of your star. Shade away from your star. So shade now differently, over and up and to the right. Now, if you notice, we have some part that overlaps. That's going to be the solution, where my yellow shading and my blue shading overlap. That makes green. That's the solution to this problem. So make sure you make the solution part extra dark, because we don't want anybody to be confused about where the answer is. The answer is where the two shaded parts overlap. Okay? Now let's move on to example B. In example B, we have 2x plus y is greater than or equal to 3. And since this is in standard form, let's first look at graphing it by eliminating a variable. The problem here is when I divide by 2, I'm going to get 1.5. Graphing decimals is not always advisable, so whenever possible, you should avoid it. So instead, let's try not to graph it that way. Let's change it into slope-intercept form. So to get the y by itself, I'm going to have to move that 2x. Since it's positive, I'll subtract it. So I get y is greater than or equal to negative 2x plus 3. Now, remember, there's my b, so that's where I start, at 3 on the y-axis. My slope, make it a fraction, is negative 2 over 1. So go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Then connect your points. And that's the first line. Now to shade, don't forget to check 0, 0. 0 in for x, 0 in for y. Is that equal to or greater than 3? I don't think 0 is greater than 3, so that's a no. So don't shade over top of the star with your first line. So shade away from the star on the other side. Okay, that's the first line. Now the second equation, 2x plus y is less than 4, looks an awfully lot like the first one. So I bet if I do the same thing, which would be to minus 2x, I'll get y is less than negative 2x plus 4. Yep, I get it in slope-intercept form, doing it the same way. B is right there at 4, so put a dot at 4 on the y-axis. Put a 1 underneath that negative 2, and that's your m. So go down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1, down 2 over 1. Now, before I connect those dots, I need to point out something a little bit different this time. You see that less than? There's no line underneath it. So instead of, you see in the other one, it had a line. Now, without a line, you don't draw a solid line. You draw a dotted line if there's no or equal to part. So one of your lines is solid, one of them is dotted. Now, let's check 0, 0. 0 for x, 0 for y. Is 0 plus 0 less than 4? Of course 0 is less than 4. So this time I need to shade over top of my star. So with my pencil shading lightly, shade from the blue dotted line over to the left. And I hope you noticed that the yellow and the blue overlapped a little bit in the middle between the two lines. So that is where your answer is. So make that part extra dark, but make sure you can still tell that the blue line is dotted. And you don't just black it out. All right, so that's 2 problems so far where they overlapped, and that was the green area. Now let's look at a problem where they may not overlap. Let's look at example number 2. All right, with example number 2, I've set up 2 lines that are very simple to graph. Neither one of them has an x, so they both should be horizontal lines. So go ahead and draw a horizontal line at 3. 1, 2, 3. And since there's no line underneath the greater than, it's going to be dotted. Now, ask yourself, which way is greater, up or down? If you said up, that's right. Now let's do the second one. Y is less than 1. Dot at 1. And since there's no or equal to part, make it dotted. Now, which way is less? If you said down, that's right. Now notice these 2 lines don't have any overlapping part. If they don't overlap, the system has no solution. All right, so if there's no overlapping shading, no solution. All right, let's go on to number 2b. And first up, let's make that a 12. That'll make the problem a lot easier to do. So x plus 6y is less than or equal to 12. Standard form, so let's think about just crossing out the y. That gives me x equals 12. My graph doesn't go to 12. Shenanigans. I'm not going to do that. Instead, let me change this into slope-intercept form. X is on the wrong side, so I think I'll subtract that. So 6y is less than or equal to negative x plus 12. Get rid of the 6. Divide. And since there's no number in front of the x, we'll put a 1 there. So that's going to be negative 1/6 x. 12 divided by 6 is 2. So I've got my b, I've got my m. Time to go graphing. 1, 2. 2 on the y-axis. Negative 1 over 6. Down 1 over 6. Got my 2 dots. I look to see, yep, there's a line underneath it. So draw a solid line. Now I'll check my shading point. 0 for x, 0 for y. Is 0 plus 0 less than 12? Certainly hope 0 is less than 12. So shade over top of your star this time. Now let's go on to the second one. Ooh, this one's already in slope-intercept form. B is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is just off my graph. That's okay. I could deal with one space. M is in front of X. Down 1 over 6. And I once again have a line underneath it. So solid line. Now, check my 0, 0. 0 for y greater than or equal 0 for x plus 7. Is 0 greater than 7? 0 is not greater than 7. So do not shade on top of the star. Shade way up here. And once again, there's no overlap. So no solution. Okay, time for the last one. And no more of these no solution ones. The last one is actually going to have some overlap. So here you go. You should try this one by yourself. So pause here before I start doing it. All right, here we go. Let's see. This one is y less than 2x plus 2. Oh, mx plus b. There's b. Put a 1 under that 2, and I got m also. Great. Come over here. Let's see. 1, 2. 2 on the y-axis. Slope is 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Up 2 over 1. Check out my less than sign. No line. It's going to be dotted this time. All right. Now I need to check 0, 0. 0 for y, 0 for x. Is 0 less than 0 plus 2? Of course 0 is less than 2, so that's yes. So I need to shade over top of my star this time. So shade lightly to the right. Ooh, look at the next one. Y is greater than or equal to negative x minus 3. Slope-intercept form again. There's b, negative 3. 1, 2, negative 3. Slope. Slope must be that minus sign. So if there's no number, I'm going to put a 1 in front. And when there's no number underneath it, I put a 1 there too. So the slope is negative 1 over 1. So go down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. Take a look at my greater than. It has a line underneath it. So connect all of your dots with a solid line. So in this graph, I have one solid and one dotted line. One final step and I'm done. Check 0, 0. 0 is greater than or equal to 0 minus 3. Is 0 bigger than 0 minus 3? Yes, it is. So this time I want to shade once again over top of the star. So lightly shade up and to the right. I see some overlap, so make sure you then take out your extra dark pencil and shade the green area in, because that's the overlap. And where they overlap is your solution. Where they overlap is your solution. Make it extra dark. All right, I hope this was helpful. I hope the sound worked. This is the third time I've recorded this one. So good luck.